Alright, it's winter, and since I haven't done an oud video since 2020, I thought I'd put together another one today. Top 20 oud fragrances. But I have to be honest, these are not fragrances that I speak about over and over again. This is 20 oud fragrances that I've spoken about less or hardly at all. So, find out about top 20 oud fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian, and yes, today I'm talking about oud fragrances. I talk about oud a lot, but it comes and goes in waves. Sometimes I'm really into it, sometimes I kind of fall out of love with it. But as I said, I haven't done a video on oud since I think August of 2020 or maybe September, somewhere around there. And I thought I'd put together another one. Some of these I have spoken about a little bit, some I haven't spoken about at all. And some are, you know, stuff that I used to talk about and I've kind of put them off and I'm kind of circling back to them. So 20 fragrances, ranked video. But before I get to the fragrances, if this is your first time tuning in and you still haven't subscribed, as always, please click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So we'll jump right into it. I want to keep this as short as possible, this video. First one, we're going to go to the house of Van Cleef & Arpels, Precious Oud. This collection is fairly decent. This was not featured in my top 10 collection extraordinaire fragrances by Van Cleef & Arpels video, but I just picked it up and I'm quite enjoying it. But I put it here as I enjoy some of the other ones a little more. But it's got oud and it's meshed with white flowers, so it's got tuberose and jasmine. There's some spices in there, there's some woods, earthiness, and then a little incense running throughout it. So Precious Oud from Van Cleef & Arpels at number 20. The next fragrance we're talking about is from the house of LOUMARI. This is NAYSSABOUR, or NAYSSABOUR is how you say it. And this is definitely the Middle Eastern style oud. It's got the oud in there. It's got the ambery touches, the warm spiciness. There's cloves for the spices. There's some light fruits in there. Raspberry, so it does have that kind of that traditional Middle Eastern style essence in there, but it's got some warmth in there. There's some saffron and some benzoin and patchouli. So that's NAYSSABOUR from the house of LOUMARI for a fragrance featuring oud. And the way I did this list, the ranking, if it has a lot of oud, then it would have been ranked high if I really love the fragrance, because this next one has oud, but I don't get much oud from it, but it's one of my favorite fragrances from the house of XERJOFF. This is a SYMPHONIUM. SYMPHONIUM does feature two kinds of oud, but for me it's more of a gourmand. Oud doesn't stand out as much. Now some people might pick up the oud more than I do, but for me it's all about the oranges and chocolate, which is absolutely delicious. But SYMPHONIUM is all about the Spanish Mandarin, which is kind of very orangey. The chocolate in here, it's kind of like a, not necessarily dark chocolate, but definitely creamy. There's like a milkiness about this chocolate, because the whole wearing experience is very, very smooth. There's some vanilla in here, and then of course there's a Thai oud and Laotian oud, but it's really a really delicious offering from this house. The only reason it's ranked low is because I don't get much of the oud. I think it's all about the chocolate, the orange, and the vanilla, with the light essence of the oud. So XERJOFF SYMPHONIUM at 18. This next one is going to the house of L'Artisan Parfumeur. This is Ode à la Oud. Once again, I do get more oud here in comparison to SYMPHONIUM, but it's a gourmand take on oud once again, and it's actually very, very delicious. Yeah, it does remind me of a little bit of the fragrance Babylon from the house of Penhaligons. I was drawing a blank, but you know, it does have differences. This does settle to more of an oudiness, but there's that whole kind of DNA of reminding me of Babylon. But it's quite delicious. It's created using vanilla, oud, and amber. I think there's some saffron in here as well to give that kind of like a Middle Eastern touch to the fragrance. So Ode à la Oud from the house of L'Artisan Parfumeur. That's a brand new fragrance. Let me know if you've heard about it, if you've sampled it. It's probably just making its way out there. The next fragrance I'm talking about is from the house of BORTNIKOFF. This is Oud Monarch. So again, all these fragrances I haven't really spoken too much about. If at all, I have spoken a little bit. In highlighting the ouds is what we're talking about today in this particular fragrance video. Oud Monarch from the house of BORTNIKOFF is a kind of a chocolatey oud, but also kind of tropical. There's these white flowers in here that are tropical, so when it kind of like connects and joins the chocolate or the cacao, it creates kind of like a milk chocolatey effect for me, or more like a chocolate custard kind of an effect against the oud. But it's lots of cacao with oud. There's vanillic touches, there's some flowers in there, some light tobacco, and a little bit of rose. So Oud Monarch from the house of Bortnikoff at number 16. This next one is actually quite good, but I put it here because it's I mean, I like the other fragrances just a little more. This is from the house of GUERLAIN. This is Oud Essential. How many of you know this one? I haven't spoken too much about this, but I like this one because it's an oudy take on something like Bois Mysteria in the orange bottle from this house, the GUERLAIN, the collection. But, you know, it's spicy, it's woody, and it's got some leathery touches, and I think it's the leather in here that's also in the Bois Mysterio that kind of reminds me of one another. But there's also some rose and saffron. There's a little bit of Olibanum and some cedar in here as well. Quite a nice designer-esque oud fragrance, very, very spicy, woody, and leathery. So that's Oud Essential from the house of GUERLAIN. This next one is from the house of TIZIANA TERENZI. This is NERO Oud. This one I picked up from Selfridges back in 2019 when I was in London. I saw it there. I saw that it was the exclusive fragrance to Selfridges. I instantly bought it because I liked the matte finish bottle on this one. But it just became available internationally, I think worldwide, since I think last summer is when I saw it at Neiman Marcus. But this is kind of one of those like very woody oud fragrances, and it's got lots of oud and saffron and patchouli. There is some cypriol in here. There's some balsamic notes, lightly vanillic, and then there's a little bit of rose in here as well. I quite like it. It's a little easier to wear. Not as challenging as some ouds can be, but you know, kind of almost to the point of saying it's kind of like easy to wear, like Tom Ford's Oud Wood, which obviously is not going to be on this list because I've spoken about it quite a bit, but a little more edgier than the Oud Wood. So NERO Oud from the house of TIZIANA TERENZI at number 14. So at number 13, go into the house of Wilhelm Parfumerie. This is the Oud Affair. So this one definitely is kind of that gourmandish oud, but I think it's more oud than something like Symphonium, which I get more chocolate, orange, and vanilla. Here I do get other things happening. The oud agarwood is pretty prominent here, along with a tobacco leaves note. And this particular one kind of goes into a direction of reminding me of something like tobacco vanille, but it's lots of oud tobacco leaves with vanilla, honey, ginger butter. It's quite nice. It's gourmand, but not quite full-on gourmand. It's tobacco, it's spicy, it's warm, and of course oudy, woody. So Wilhelm Parfumerie, the Oud Affair at number 13. This next one's from the house of Mise en Cire. This is Perfect Oud. This one is you know, it's a really solid oud fragrance, but very, very Western and very wearable. I like its oudiness, its woodiness meshed with roses. It's got this kind of like a dry rose experience. It does sweeten up and get a little jammy throughout the wearing experience, but for me it's more a dry experience. And it's got lots of aromatics. It's got some powdery touches, and then of course some woods thrown in addition, some spices. It's definitely very easy to wear oud. I like its quality. So this is a Perfect Oud from the house of Mise en Cire. I think they have another oud in the collection. They might even have 3. I'm not 100% sure. But definitely Perfect Oud is perfect at number 12. This next one's from the house of Sarah Baker Perfumes. This is Ludo. This is an oud fragrance. And once again, this is kind of gourmand leaning, but doesn't fully go gourmand. It does have that white chocolate note, and it's a nice contrast to the dry, woody, lightly animalic Laotian oud in here against this creaminess from white chocolate. It makes for a kind of a light gourmand experience, and I think the oud, there's 2 kinds of oud in here. I believe it's Laotian oud and oud. So there's amber in here as well, and there's some cypriol, but all of these notes kind of tone down its creaminess, that white chocolate kind of going into the gourmand direction. It balances it out so it doesn't fully go to the gourmand direction, if that makes sense. There's some light cherry note, vanillic touches, a little orange blossom, and some citruses as well. Ludo is definitely a winner for me at number 11. Sarah Baker Perfumes Ludo. This next one's from the house of Strangelove. This is Fall Into Stars. They have 2 ouds in their collection. There's Dead of Night, which is more of an animalic oud, kind of similar to something like the Night. This one to me is a different take on it, not as animalic, but still there are some animalic touches, you know, in the background that you will notice and pick up. But it's a very, very pungent oud experience with narcisse flower. There's some rosewood, there's some light vanillic touches, and even lighter spicy touches of pink pepper. Definitely a very Middle Eastern style luxury oud fragrance. Fall Into Stars from Strangelove, New York. This next one's a designer. This is from a very small fashion house of Costume National. This is Soul. Anybody know this one? I think it's a great oud. It's a very, very ambery, kind of spicy, warm, lightly gooey, but lots of oud and amber together. It's a great solid release created by Dominique Ropion that I really, really like. But it has the patchouli, it has some cardamom, but lots of ambergris with oud and some vanillic touches. Really a great oud fragrance. Again, very underrated, also an underrated house, Costume National. Only thing about Costume National is I don't know its current distribution in the States, so it might be a little more tough for you to get this, but if you can, I think it's a really, really solid fragrance. So Soul by Costume National at number 9. The next fragrance going to the house of Rosendo Mathieu. This is number 7. How many of you know this one? I just recently did a video about this one and I really, really enjoy this particular oud. It's basically taking 3 amazing notes combining together to create a really beautiful fragrance to wear. We've got Thai oud in this one, we've got Laos oud, we've also got vanilla, patchouli, benzoin, jasmine, some spices, and rose. The rose is this is not a rose oud fragrance, it's more of a vanilla oud and patchouli fragrance, but you do have some ambery touches in here as well, along with the vanilla. You've got some benzoin, some light flowers, and definitely the spicy edge. So number 7 from the house of Rosendo Mathieu is number 8. At number 7, going to the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, it's Oud Satin Mood EDP. I still haven't gotten to ED, or the X-ray is what I should say. How many of you recommend the X-ray version of Oud Satin Mood against the Eau de Parfum version? Let me know. But this particular one is a gourmand take on oud, not one that I've spoken a lot about on the channel, but I really dig its warm spiciness contrasted with the oud and then of course the rose. So it's a kind of a gourmand oud rose combo and it's really, really delicious, and lots of rose here, violet with oud, vanilla. There's some amber and benzoin as well. I think he's done a great job with this one, although, you know, yeah, it's very popular. I think this is the most popular oud in his series of fragrances. He's gotten rid of the velvet oud and also the cashmere oud, which I quite like the cashmere oud a lot. I think the only ones that are existing still are the silk, the original oud, and then of course satin, and I think there's multiple concentrations of each. There's a whole video on the channel of the Francis Kurkdjian or Maison Francis Kurkdjian ouds. You can go catch that. But at number 7, it's Oud Satin Mood EDP. So the next one I'm talking about is from the house of Cartier. This is Oud and Mint. It's a minty oud. So I have spoken a lot about Cartier's Oud Radeau, which is a ginger and oud, really, really amazing. This one actually also is really, really amazing. This one does have, you know, slight similarities to the Oud Radeau, but with a minty edge. Like I feel like they credit mint, oud, and amber for this one, and for the other one, Oud Radeau, they credit ginger, oud, and amber. But I feel like they've moved over some of the ginger and added that kind of zinginess in here along with the mint. So not only do you have these aromatic green touches from the mint, you've got this zing and spice from the ginger, and then the oud and the amber come in as well. Really a great fragrance. I really love the way this one smells. So Oud and Mint from the house of Cartier is definitely a great fragrance. This next one is so good. It's really, really great. I've used up quite a bit of it. This is Oud Perfumes, Poem of Damas, this one right here. It does kind of remind me of Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade a little bit. Different take, but it reminds me of it. But it's lots of oud with fruits, floral touches, oriental notes according to them, and amber. And I believe the oriental notes, when they bring up some notes like that, they're referring to resins and spices and things like that. Yes, it's got spices in here, definitely has some resins and kind of like warm, spicy experience with the oud and the fruits. Really a great scent. Oud Parfums, Poem of Damas at number 5. This one I spoke about a few days ago, Oud Mazing from the house house of Montal. It's a recent discovery that I'm totally obsessed with. Yes, it does remind me of a few kind of feminine designer fragrances like La Vie est Belle, Coco Mademoiselle, an Angel, but it's its own unique thing with lots of oud. It's a blast of oud up top, and there's the fig and pear there as well. So it's a fruity, kind of warm, spicy, vanillic. This sparkly as well. There's lots of patchouli in here. So since those three fragrances I mentioned from the designers have a pretty prominent patchouli note, this one kind of reminds me of it because of that, along with the oud. Just remember though, this one's oudy. If you don't like oud and you like those other fragrances, you're probably gonna not like this one. I would suggest go catch my review of this fragrance, Oud Amazing, because I think it's an amazing oud. So at number 4, Montal Oud Amazing. So this next fragrance, I'm going to the house of Amarud, and this is Sunset Oud. Oh boy, this is so good. So good, plus very intense and long lasting. A little goes a long way, and that's what I like about Amarud's fragrances. They're quite big. They're beefy. That's the word to use. Like if you buy like a chicken that's like big and lots of meat on it, flesh, and there's a lot of meat to eat, and that's kind of the experience with this one. A lot of their fragrances are just overwhelming, and a little goes a long way, as I said. And this one actually smells great and also really lasts a long time. Features oud and vetiver. There's some tobacco flower with some amber leathery touches and resins and aromatics as well. Really delicious wearing experience. I really like that one. So Amarud Sunset Oud at number 3. Number 2, going to the house of Jazil, it's Gala. Yes, some people detect very animalic qualities with this one. I don't know why. I'm not picking it up. I'm probably anosmic to it, and I absolutely love it. And I like its balance of animalics against the rose and the oudiness in here. It's very oudy and very rosy, but it does have that kind of animalic quality. I've had some people smell this and they kind of get away from it like that. But some people that also don't like the animalics seem to embrace it because they like rose. So it's kind of interesting who picks up the animalics. So if you pick it up, it's probably too much for you. I think it's a great fragrance, and I love that whole combination of multiple different kinds of ouds and rose and some spices and patchouli and light incensey smokiness. So that is Gala from the house of Jazil. And finally at number 1, it's Fragrance du Bois Sarah. Do you know this one? Oh man, once again, like Gala, it's phenomenal. Very nice blend with great notes. This one doesn't get animalic as much as the other one does. Although this one, yeah, I think they're pretty equal, but definitely I experience a little more animalics with Gala than this one, but phenomenal releases. They're both about rose and oud, and I like that about them. This one seems to be a little drier for me in comparison to Gala. Gala seems to be a little more jammy. I get the jamminess from the rose, but this one's oud, rose, amber, saffron, geranium, patchouli, black pepper, but a combination is really phenomenal. That's why it's at number 1. Again, as I mentioned earlier, these fragrances I haven't spoken too much about, if at all. That's why I'm doing this. But also, there were some gourmandish ouds. They are in the bottom of the list because this is more about oud, and I don't want to feature gourmand fragrances with oud in the background as a number 1 fragrance, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's my list for you today. These are fragrances, as I said, I haven't spoken too much about. I did not include the usual suspects that I always talk about. I wanted to make sure the list is of stuff that you guys probably don't know, or maybe you know, I don't know. But if you know them, let me know. Put some comments down so I can find out if you know about these fragrances. And then also let me know if I haven't spoken about a certain oud fragrance on the channel yet. Put a comment down so I can find out, so I can look into it. I know I go in waves with, you know, different notes. Sometimes I get bored of oud, and sometimes I really embrace it. So right now I'm kind of digging it, also because it's winter and it's colder outside. But either way, guys, let me know what I should check out. Let me know if you like these fragrances or hate them. Other than that, I appreciate you tuning in. As I said, if you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. Okay, there's just one more fragrance I should highlight. It's the brand that I don't speak too much about. Recently, I featured this fragrance probably in 1 or 2 fragrance videos, but I wanted to highlight it again. It wasn't highlighted for the oud in those videos, but this is Atkinson's Oud Save the King. Yes, it's one of those oudy fragrances that kind of has that tobacco vanille-like quality, but in here, It's not as much as this one, the Oud Affair, but it's lots of suede leather here with oud, sandalwood, tea, orris, but it's quite delicious, and these two do remind me of one another. I do prefer the Wilhelm a little over this. This one, it has that ginger butter, so it's a lot creamier. This one seems to be a little drier, and they both remind me of Tobacco Vanille, but both of them feature oud, and then of course the bonus fragrance, as I said, is Oud Save the King from the House of Atkinsons. Anyway guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.